A very, very warm welcome to all of you and a very good morning to all the people who joined the live class. I hope you had a good time revising TDS with me, the provision of Chapter 9 with me, TDS, TCS Advanced Tax. Today is the class for provisions of filing, return of income and self-assessment. I believe you have more topics in income tax which might be completed by this month. So shall we begin our today's class? Before we begin, since today is my last class with you for this batch, I request everyone, if they have any doubt, we can take it for the first 5 minutes or else we'll take it towards the end of the class as in the last 10-15 minutes. So everyone can settle in and we shall start. Very, very good morning to all of you. So no queries up till now? सबने वो चार्ट बनाया है for the provisions of TDS, specifically the section, nature of payment, rate, deductor, deductee, threshold limit, and time of deduction. Also written down separately the sections on which the deduction happens at the time of payment, which are applicable, other list for which it is applicable for resident, individual, and HF to deduct the TDS. I hope all of you are doing this. This will help you revise the chapter quickly. And I know that is provided in books and maybe in many books which you have in the market, but self tables will actually help you remember things. So कोई doubt नहीं है तो shall we start our today's class then? Great. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen once again. So today's class, students, is all about filing of return. Now, return of what? आपने पढ़ा होगा TDS का return, which we did it in the previous class. The TDS का return file होता है. That is, the return is nothing. It's not something which you give back. Literal meaning. Return is something, a statement which you file with the authorities. Return is a statement which you file with the authorities. When we talk about TDS returns means it's a statement of TDS which you deducted during a quarter. Okay. Similarly, when I talk about income tax return or return of income, it means it's a statement of my income earned during the previous year and the tax thereon. Income on during the previous year and the tax thereon. And how do we file, calculate the income? That we know, we take all the 5 hits per income. We see if any income is to be clubbed. We set off any losses which are there. We set off the carry forward, brought forwarded losses. We reduce the deductions which we are eligible to have. And then we come to our net taxable income or total taxable income. Correct? But all of this government को कैसे पता चलेगा? What are you doing? You file a return of income. The return of income for a previous year is filed in the assessment year. So if I talk about you, the previous year is 21-22 and the assessment year is 22-23, which is the ongoing year. So abhi, since it's a return season time, you'll see people filing and going madly for the return to be filed in the due date. So what are the return? Why? What are the due dates? what are the different types of sections under which you file your return. There are various subsections under which you file your return. All of that we'll do today. Whether everyone has to file the return, if I do not have any income, do I still need to file the return? All of these things will be covered in the coming time. Along with that, we'll see what are the penalties or what are the repercussions if you do not file your return of income on time. So one is interest and another is fee, which we'll see. And the last section of the class will be covering about miscellaneous provisions like what is permanent account number, where do you have to quote permanent account number, where do you have to quote Aadhaar number, linking of Aadhaar and PAN, Aadhaar can be interchangeably used for PAN. Then there is how do you file the return through tax return preparer, who can verify the return of income, what is verification of return of income, ultimately who signs the return of income on the person who is filing it, obviously, but if he's not there, all of these things, especially in case of artificial persons or non-human, non-individuals who will sign the return of income. And then there is self-assessment. Self-assessment is the tax ultimately which you paid during the assessment year. Because अभी हमने remember हमने पढ़ा था advance tax के time में anything which you are paying in the previous year would be advance tax from April to March of that previous year. So whatever you have paid, say in this example particularly April 21 to March 22 would be your advance tax. Remember, even if it is paid after the 4th installment of advance tax, still it would be advance tax if it is paid before 31st March. Anything which is paid during the assessment year, that is in this example from 1st April 2022 till the time you file your return, because return cannot be filed if some tax is due, would be your self-assessment tax. And I showed you in the previous class that how the challan goes like, correct? So this is what the overview of the chapter looks. So shall we begin now with 139.1? Concept samajh aaya? What would be this chapter about? Chalo, great. Step by step, now let's proceed with section 139.1. Students, kya hota hai? We need to file the return of income under various subsections. One is 139.1, which is compulsory filing of return of income. This section talks about that person who are compulsory. Subsection talks about the person who are compulsory required to file the return of income, and that means they have to file the return of income within the due date. So whenever you open any form, return filing form, you will see you have options there to select return filed under section 139 subsection 1 on or before the due date. Then there is 139.3, which talks about return of loss. मतलब अगर आपका return में loss है, the final result is loss and you have to carry forward it, that is your return of loss. So if you have losses, you select, ultimately it is filed under section 139.3. Then if you late file the return, that is after due date, which is belated. After the due date, we'll see what are the provisions that becomes under 139 subsection 4. So you select under the return filing form, return filed under section 139 subsection 4. Why these segregations are important? Because filing the return within the due date, filing the loss return, all of these have separate consequences in relation to it. So the government should know that under which section are you filing the return. And it may happen sometimes that after filing the return, you find some error, right? Oh shit, ये income दिखाना भूल गई और ये income दिखाना रह गया या ये loss claim करना रह गया. Then you file the revision of return. That is called revised return. So all of these are the provisions which will be applicable to your return filing. Under all these sections, the return is filed, but the applicability differs. So now let's begin with section 139, subsection 1, which is compulsory filing of return of income. Now for who it is compulsion to file the return of income? So who has to file the return of income? Whether you or me do not have any income, should we file the return of income? So let's see. There's a whole list of people who has to file the return of income. Number 1 is companies and firms. Firms can be LLP also, including LLP. Partnership firms, including LLP. They have to file the return of income, irrespective of the fact that whether they have losses, whether they have not earned income during the year. No, there is no relaxation for them. They always have to file the return of income. Then second comes other assessee. Other assessee means other than companies and firms who have income more than basic exemption limit. Income more than basic exemption limit. What are the basic exemption limit? What are the basic exemption limit? 2,50,000 in case of individual and HUF, 3 lakhs in case of resident senior citizen, 5 lakhs in case of super senior citizens. So उनके लिए if they have income more than basic exemption limit, but here income पे star है. What is this income? Whether it is gross total income, whether it is net total income, whether it is what. So this has given a clarification. Here we have the provision stating that this income would be the income before deductions under chapter 6A. Under chapter 6A मतलब which you just studied, your 80C, 80D, 80TT, all of this. इससे पहले अगर आपका income is more than basic exemption limit, yes, you are right. The taxability comes after the final income only, after taking the deductions only. But here, to file the return of income or not, you have to see basically your gross total income. Can I say that? Can I say this, that you have to consider your gross total income, the income before deductions under chapter 6A. Also, if you have capital gain, if you had capital gain in your income, then you have to consider income before exemption under section 54, 54B, D, EC, all of that, 54F. Because government के हिसाब से अच्छा खासा you are earning an income, just because of deductions and these exemptions आपका income low हो रहा है, they still want you to file the return of income, that is file the statement of income. So for example, if you had no income but capital gain during the year, long term capital gain था आपको 30 lakhs का, but you invested in residential property से gain था 30 lakhs का, you invested in another residential property for 28 lakhs and you got this as an exemption. So 2 lakh only आपका income आया, तो आप कहोगे income तो basic exemption limit से कम है, I do not require to file the return. But the government says no, you have to consider the income which is before exemption, which is before exemption. So can I say that other assessing के case में, if the gross total income before exemption under section 54, 54B, 54D, ECF is more than basic exemption limit, then they have to file the return of income, otherwise they are not required. Or you can say income before deductions, which will come to your gross total income, and before exemptions. Okay? But these were the simple provisions. Later, as and when things got more on a global level, resident side, all of these things, so government ने odd provisions भी डाल दिए. So first is companies and firm, that they have to file the return of income. Then other assessees, when they have income more than basic exemption limit, they have to file the return of income. But इसके अलावा, if you are suppose not a company or a firm, and even not falling here, even not falling in the second category, but you are a ROR. What is ROR? Resident and ordinary resident. ठीक है, जिनका global income tax होता है. you are an ROR, you do not have income more than basic exemption limit. That is clear. But here, listen carefully. You are I'll take it here only. You are a beneficial owner. You are a beneficial owner of any asset outside India, any asset located outside India, including financial interest in an entity. Financial interest means you have that voting power in an entity or a good equity interest in an entity. So you have any asset located outside India and you're a beneficial owner of that asset. Now, ये term किसको पता है कि what is beneficial owner? There are two terms. One is beneficial owner and one is beneficiary. Beneficial owner is ultimately the person who has given the consideration and ultimately obviously he will be the owner. ठीक है, जिसने ultimately consideration दिया है, that is beneficial owner. The other term is beneficiary. Beneficiary क्या होता है? जिसको ultimately benefit मिलता है. As the name suggests, benefit derive हो रहा है from that asset. The person who ultimately derives the benefit from that asset is a beneficiary. This person may have paid consideration or may not have paid consideration. If a beneficial owner has paid the consideration, if a person has paid the consideration and is enjoying the benefit of that asset, he is a beneficial owner also and beneficiary. Correct? But if a person has paid for the consideration, but the other person is getting the benefit from the asset, that is beneficiary. The other person is the beneficiary. So, for example, if you have a house located outside India, okay, and you paid for the consideration, then you are the beneficial owner of that house. But the rental income from that house is actually credited to your mother. Then the mother is beneficiary because she is getting the benefit derived from that asset. Okay, so beneficial owner, ultimately the person is paying the consideration and beneficiary means who is getting the benefit of it. So back to the return filing provisions. So if you are an ROR and at any time during the year, you are the beneficial owner of any asset. You are the beneficial owner of any asset located outside India, or you are a signing authority in any account located outside India. So bank account में आपने you have a saving account or some other account there and you are the signing authority. So in both the cases, you are required to file the return of income even if you do not have any income more than basic exemption limit during the previous year. See, अगर आप इस category में fall हो गए, which is your other assessee wala category, then you have to file the return. But the next categories which you are going to discuss are the ones who are not even covered here but still have to file the return of income. कहने का मतलब है, even if you are an other assessee not having basic exemption limit, but if you fall under the third or the fourth category, which we are going to discuss, still you are required to file the return of income. So ROR, if he is a beneficial owner in any asset located outside India or is a signing authority in any account located outside India. Okay? Clear? But if you're not a beneficial owner but a beneficiary, so here take an example of the mother who is getting the rent. You are a beneficiary of the asset. Then also you have to file the return of income. So if you are a beneficiary of any asset which is located outside India, including financial interest, then also you have to file the return of income. So beneficial owner को भी return file करना है, beneficiary को भी. The answer is yes, prima facie. But if the beneficial owner, this is a proviso, please listen carefully. If the beneficial owner has filed his return of income in India, has shown all the income which is getting derived from the asset, then beneficiary may not file the return of income. Then the beneficiary is not required to file the return of income. So, ma'am, example, now we will take the example of you only. So, you are the beneficial owner and your mother is the beneficiary. Both are ROR number 1. Okay? Both are, you have a house located outside India. Where is your favorite country? So let's take Singapore. Okay. So I have a house in Singapore and you are the owner of that house. Okay. You are the owner of that house. So you are the beneficial owner. As per this provision, A wala provision, you have to file the return of income. Who at any time during the previous year owns the house? Okay. Your mother is getting the rent. So as per B provision, she is also required to file the return because she is the beneficiary. But एक relaxation दिया है government ने कहा, if you are being a beneficial owner, file your return of income in India and shows the income which is derived from this asset, in your return, then your mother need not be required to file the return as per the B part. Because if the beneficial owner, when an income arising from such asset is included in the hands of the person who is a beneficial owner, in accordance with the provisions of the Act, an individual being a beneficiary of such asset is not required to file the return of income under fourth proviso. Clear? So ROR ka part is clear. Next is certain categories of person who have to file the return of income other than company or firm, because company or firm के लिए is compulsory. Correct? कब? बहुत ही interesting चीज है. कब they have to file the return of income? When are they required to file the return of income? When they have a deposit on an amount or aggregate amount exceeding 1 crore in one or more current accounts maintained with bank. Ma'am, matlab, so suppose you do not show that you have an income more than basic exemption limit, okay? But if in any or one or any of your current accounts, the aggregate of deposit during the year is more than 1 crore. Deposit is not written cash deposit, any deposit. So basically, credit ka entry, if during the year is more than 1 crore, then you are required to file the return of income. In which account? In current account. What is a current account? There are two types of account. Saving account is what you maintain. It's an on-demand account, but it is basically for your savings. Current account is opened by business entities for their day-to-day transactions. When you have multiple transactions, you open current account. Okay, this is basically by business entity. Isme there is no interest, saving me you get interest also. Okay, so back to the concept. Current account mein, if you have more than 1 crore ka income, 1 crore ka deposits during the year, it can be with any bank. In aggregate for all banks, in aggregate for all current accounts. If the deposit is more than 1 crore, you need to file the return of income before the due date. 139(1) में दो चीजें compulsory filing before the due date. Secondly, if you have made a foreign expenditure in a country for 2 lakhs or more, or for more than 2 lakhs, then you are required to file the return. So either for yourself or for any person, if you spend more than 2 lakhs on foreign travel, then you are required to file the return of income. Or if your electricity consumption during the year is more than 1 lakh. This is, you must be thinking, ma'am, return of income and electricity consumption ka kya? Basically, if you are using so much of energy, definitely you might be having some income and you're not showing, maybe you're using power somewhere else, right? So government say if you are spending on electricity for more than 1 lakh during the year, then you have to file the return of income. And students, let me tell you, there is a extension to this provision made, but that is not applicable to you. But what you have to remember is, if just see if the applicability comes in the RTP of November attempt. What you have to see is if the current account is deposit is more than 1 crore, if foreign travel is more than 2 lakhs, or if electricity consumption is more than 1 lakh. This foreign travel ka kharcha, you can make it for yourself or for anyone. Any of this condition is fulfilled, you have to file the return of income. even if you do not have income more than basic exemption limit. Clear? So when you have to file the return of income, who has to compulsory file the return of income before the due date? Company and firms. Repeat after me. Companies and firm. Other assessee having income more than basic exemption limit before Chapter 6A deductions and your deductions under Section 54B, D, EC or F. Third, beneficial ROR. A ROR who is as a beneficial owner owns any asset located outside India at any time during the year, or a beneficiary or a beneficiary or a person who is a beneficiary of any asset located outside India. A beneficial owner of any asset located outside India, or he is a signing authority in any account maintained outside India. Okay, then any other person who during the year gets deposit of more than 1 crore in his current accounts in aggregate, or spends more than 2 lakhs on foreign travel for himself or any other person, or electricity consumption of more than 1 lakh. Okay, so they are required to file the return of income. Any doubt up till now? These are the compulsory provisions. Signing authority means, Riddhi, that you can sign, as in bank account में signing authority कौन होता है? The ultimate person from whose sign these account gets instructed, right? So that is signing authority. Bank के case में if you are a signing authority, चाहे bank account आपके name में नहीं है, still you are an authorized signing person, then you have to tell the details to the government. Income would be taxed that in the beneficial owner's hands if on beneficial behalf. Beneficial owner files return the income derived by income will be taxes in whose hand. So एक चीज ध्यान रखना आयुष एंड एवरीवन, बेनिफिशियल ओनर हो या एनीवन हो, एक इनकम एक पर्सन के हाथ की टैक्स होती है. इफ आई एम अर्निंग अ पर्टिकुलर इनकम, इट वुड बी टैक्स्ड इन माय हैंड ओनली. दैट्स व्हाई व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट क्लबिंग, if the income is getting clubbed in the hands of one person, other person के हाथ में जिसके अकाउंट में आ रहे हैं वो टैक्स नहीं करता. Similarly, when we talk about beneficial owner and beneficiary, if beneficial owner files the return of income showing that rental income, जिसका एग्जाम्पल मैंने आपको दिया था, showing that rental income, because गवर्नमेंट को इनकम का इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए नंबर वन, एंड ऑब्वियसली इस इनकम पे टैक्स चाहिए. सो इफ एज अ बेनिफिशियल ओनर यू आर शोइंग दैट इनकम, then beneficiary is exempt. But it would not happen vice versa. Beneficiary is exempt from what? Beneficiary is exempt from filing the return of income. Okay? Beneficiary is exempt from filing the return of income. Yes, both of them needs to be ROR, because government, see, ROR क्या होता है? The person who their global incomes are getting taxed. Government is not interested that you are a non-resident and you are having assets outside India. Obviously, you will be having assets in India. But if you are a resident or citizen and resident ordinary individual, the government has the right on you to tax. And if you're not showing your global incomes, that means there's something fishy. That's why they kept this asset wala condition. But if you have assets, you have to tell us the details. And in fact, return form mein kya hota hai? There's a full table. Where if you're filing it as per this section and you are a resident or a citizen and you have foreign assets outside India, you have to give the details of all the foreign assets that you have outside India. You write the asset ka naam, you write the location of the asset, where is that asset, which country that asset is. You write whether you own that asset as a beneficial owner or a beneficiary, you are the beneficiary. You write income derived from that asset. That is how this particular section works. Yes, Sumesh, deposit, foreign travel, electricity expenses are in case of any person other than company or company or firm, because company or firm are required to file the return of income. Ayush, यहाँ पे you are making a mistake, ma'am. Income will be taxed in either beneficial owner or beneficiary who shows such income in the return of income, right? No. यहाँ पे एक आप loophole कर रहे हो in filing this. I'll take you back to this mother wala example. Just one second. ध्यान से everyone, see, there is beneficial owner who is the owner who has paid the consideration. I given you an example of you, or if you don't like you can take Mr. X. Okay? He owns a house in Singapore. He owns a house in Singapore. He's a beneficial owner. Okay? He does not have any income in India. He's in ROR. He's in ROR. First condition is that he is in ROR. Okay? And he's not required to file the return of income as per the second condition, which is more than the basic exemption limit wala income. Okay. So now Mr. X has a house in Singapore. He's a beneficial owner. He has to file the return of income in any situation. In any situation. Beneficiary also has to file the return of income. Who is the beneficiary? Because the mother is the beneficiary because she is deriving the benefit from it. She is deriving the benefit from it. इस house से जो rent आता है वो इनके account में जाता है. The rent from this house is getting credited in the mother's account. In the mother's account. So she is the beneficiary. She is also required to file the return of income even if she does not have any income of more than basic exemption limit. But both of them are ROR. The primary condition is both of them are ROR. Both have to file the return of income. But beneficial owner, if the beneficial owner files the return of income showing this rental income, then beneficiary is not required to file the income. So that means if Mr. X files the return of income showing this rental income, then mother is not required to file the return of income. But if mother files the return of income showing the rental income, still Mr. X has to file the return of income. Why? Because he is the beneficial owner and there is no relaxation vice versa. Okay? There is no relaxation vice versa. So please remember this. Ab clear hua? And read it ek baar. Rafiq bhai, Ayush, Sai Kumar, I hope all of your doubts are clear. Very good, Sumesh. Any doubt, Ayush, Rafiq bhai, those who asked the question, Sai Kumar? Take the moment, read it, we'll proceed then. It is Riddhi दोबारा ही मदर ने फाइल कर दिया रिटर्न एंड mother ने फाइल कर दिया रिटर्न showing the return of income, showing the income because logically she is getting the benefit from it. Mother is getting the benefit from it. She has to file the return of income. Okay, she has to file the return of income and she's showing that income. I'm not saying कि Mr. X जब return file करेंगे उनको वो income दिखानी है. No. He has to give a disclosure of the asset. He has to give the disclosure of the asset. The income is getting taxed one time only. So if mother shows that income, Mr. X is not exempted from filing the return. As a beneficial owner, he has to file the return. See, first, that's why I told you beneficial owner also has to file the return. Beneficiary also has to file the return. Okay? Who will show the income? The person who is deriving the benefit. Who is deriving the benefit? The mother has to show that income. Okay? Because clubbing provisions nahi lag rahe kahin se bhi, if you see, right? So the mother has to show the income. Simple. ऐसा नहीं है कि मदर ने इनकम शो कर दिया, बेनिफिशियल ओनर इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू फाइल द रिटर्न. ही हैज टू फाइल द रिटर्न. ही हैज टू गिव द डिस्क्लोजर्स in that statement. Even if he does not have any income, he shows nil return. That is not an issue. But these disclosures will go. But on the other hand, a relaxation is given that if Mr. X files the return and shows the income, then beneficiary has a relaxation of not filing the return. Okay, so income is getting taxed only once, but the relaxation is only to the beneficiary, not to the beneficial owner if beneficiary files the return. He has to file the return. He has to give the disclosure of return. अगर बेनिफिशियरी नॉन रेजिडेंट है तो ये सिनेरियो आया ही नहीं ना. The scenario is where you have a beneficial owner being a non-resident, or a beneficiary, a beneficial owner being an ROR, or a beneficiary being an ROR. Riddhi, is it clear now? Chalo. Ultimate benefit, Pradeep, ultimate benefit किसको मिल रहा है? ज्योति के केस में बेनिफिशियरी इज अ नॉन रेजिडेंट, बेनिफिशियल ओनर इज एन आरओआर, तो आरओआर को तो रिटर्न फाइल करना ही है, बेनिफिशियल ओनर को रिटर्न फाइल करना ही है. करेक्ट. ठीक है. So now is it clear who has to file the return of income? Next question would come in your mind, ma'am, by when the income tax return has to be filed, right? There should be a due date to file the return of income. What is that due date? तो ड्यू डेट बहुत सिंपल है. अगर आप कंपनी है, if you're a company, I'm not talking about firm. If you're a company or if you are in any person, जिसका audit is required. Audit is required. Audit can be under income tax. Income tax में कौन सा audit होता है? 44AB वाला, or under any other law. Any other law में आपका audit होता है. Suppose you're an electricity company, उनका अलग audit होता है. So if your books of accounts are required to be compulsory audited, be it under income tax or under any other law, or if you're a partner, in a firm, जिसके accounts audit होते हैं, if you're a partner in a firm whose firm के accounts are getting audited, partner का audit नहीं करेंगे, firm के accounts is getting audited, then all these 3% has to file the return of income by 31st of October of the assessment year. 31st of October of the assessment year. So for the ongoing assessment year of 22-23, you have to file the return of income by 31st October 2022. Ma'am, इसका क्या मतलब है? कोई रेटिफिकेशन मत करो. पार्टनर का जो अल्टीमेट टैक्सेबिलिटी होता है इनकम का, वो किस पे डिपेंड करता है? फर्म पे. कि फर्म को कितना अलाउ हुआ सैलरी, फर्म को कितना अलाउ हुआ इंटरेस्ट, राइट, फर्म को कितना प्रॉफिट हुआ, अल्टीमेटली पार्टनर का इनकम वो डिपेंड अपॉन दैट. सो अगर फर्म का ऑडिट हो रहा है, लिसन केयरफुली, इफ द फर्म का ऑडिट इज गेटिंग डन, फर्म को ऑडिट करके 31 अक्टूबर को रिटर्न फाइल करनी है, तो ऑब्वियसली पार्टनर का भी डेट 31 अक्टूबर हो जाएगा. ऑब्वियसली पार्टनर का भी डेट 31 अक्टूबर हो जाएगा. इज इट क्लियर? ठीक है. So 31st October in case of a company never has to file a return before that. any person who has audit under this law, which is income tax or any other law, or partner of a firm who has to get their account audited. Okay. Then there is this which is not applicable to you in the sense of understanding. एक प्रोविजन होता है ट्रांसफर प्राइसिंग. जब आप इंटरनेशनल ट्रांजैक्शंस करते हो या डोमेस्टिक ट्रांजैक्शंस करते हो ऑफ अ सर्टेन वैल्यू विद रिलेटेड पार्टीज, एक अलग से रिपोर्ट जाता है. ठीक है, इसका पूरा एक चैप्टर है, पूरा important chapter है at final level. So if transfer pricing provisions are applicable to you, then the due date becomes 30th November. Then the due date becomes 30th November. And if you're not covered in any of these scenario, that is आपका audit नहीं होता, or you're a firm जिसका audit नहीं होता, or any assessee जिसका audit नहीं होता, then 31st July, which is about to approach, would be your due date. So ask your parents that whether they have filed the return of income or not, because if they're not falling under this category, they should file their income return by 31st July. For which 31st July 2022, for which assessment year? Assessment year 22-23. ठीक है, clear? Let's do a question. Paras, aged 55 years, is a resident of India. During the financial year, interest of rupees 2,88,000 was credited to his non-resident external account with SBI. Okay. 30,000 being interest on fixed deposit with SBI was credited to his saving bank account. He also earned 3,000 as interest on this saving account. Is Paras required to file the return of income? So anything a person earn from his non-resident external account, उसमें जो भी credit होता है, that is exempt under income tax act. So this 2,88,000 is exempt under income tax. So his taxable income in India is 30,000 and 3,000, which is 33,000. And obviously 3,000 पे उनको वो 80TT A मिल जाएगा, right? So his total income is 30,000. Is he required to file the return of income? The answer is he's not required to file the return of income because his income is less than basic exemption limit. What will be your answer if you have incurred 3 lakhs as travel expenditure of self and spouse to US to stay with his married daughter for some time? Now, Paras is the name? Yes. So Paras ka income in India is taxable income is obviously less than basic exemption limit. He is not required to file the return of income as per the second part. But जो अभी fourth part था, if you're spending more than 2 lakhs, if you're spending more than 2 lakhs on foreign travel, even if you do not have income more than basic exemption limit, you are required to file the return of income, and that's why the moment he spends more than 2 lakhs, he has to file the return of income. Clear? And this is how you have to write the exam too. Any doubt on the illustration 1 or up till now? Because then we'll proceed. Shashwat, I request you to take this question at the end of the class. अभी topic चल रहा है, ठीक है? Pradeep is saying if mother is a saving account, Mr. is showing income in his ITL, in this case needs to file back both. No, if Mr. X files a return as a beneficial owner showing this income, then the mother need not file the return of income. Great. Next, let's understand The other sections. 139(1) is compulsory filing of return of income. That means if you're falling under it, you have to file the return of income before the due date. And what if we do not file the return of income within the due date? What will happen? There would be repercussions of 234A and 234F. 234A and 234F. What is 234A? 234A simply says that you have to pay interest. You have to pay interest at the rate of 1% per month or part of the month, beginning from the period when the due date expires till the time you actually file the return of income. So suppose 31st July is your due date, okay? But you did not file the return of income. You filed the return of income on 30th of December. You file the return of income on 30th of December. So 1% start हो जाएगा simple interest from 1st August to 30th December. So that is 1% per month or part of the month. So August, September, October, November, December, 5 months. But the question will come on what amount, ma'am? The question will come on what amount? The amount of which the tax is due. The tax which is due. Tax due means not the tax liability which is coming. The tax due here means the amount net of the tax liability, net of the TDS, the odd TCS, or the advance tax which you paid during the year, or the relief which you get, any relief or any MAT credit. उसके बाद जो अमाउंट टैक्स ड्यू है और आपने उसको रिटर्न फाइलिंग पीरियड तक पे नहीं कराया, if that amount is not paid till the return filing period, that is the tax due. So whatever is the tax due on or after 31st July, उस पे 1% लगेगा. Why? Because simple सा बात है. I say again and again, interest is basically when you are इंटरेस्ट कब देते हो? जब आप किसी का पैसा रखते हो, राइट? अगर आपने गवर्नमेंट का पैसा रखा बियॉन्ड द ड्यू डेट, दे टेक 1% फ्रॉम यू. सो मैम, इफ no tax is due, even if I file the income tax return late, whether 234A would be applicable? The answer is 234A would not be applicable. Simple. Let me take you through a scenario. So we are back to our favorite scenario of 82,600. मेरा इनकम इतना था, उस पे टैक्स 132,600 आया, उस पे टीडीएस 50,000 था, ठीक है. 82,600 was the amount of tax which was still undue, ठीक है. I filed the return of income on 20th October and I assume that 20th October को ही मैंने सारा tax deposit कराया. So 1% would be starting from August, September and October, 3 months का लगेगा. So 82,600 into 1% into 3. This is the interest which I have to deposit with the tax, to enable myself to file the return of income. ठीक है. मेरा income will not be filed if the interest or tax is undue. ठीक है. Now let's take second scenario. सेकेंड सिनेरियो में क्या है? Don't take this as estimated income, take it as final income. ठीक है. My final income is 10,50,000. My final tax is 1,32,600. उस पे TDS 50,000 कटा. मैंने एडवांस टैक्स 25,400 का किया था. Remaining 57,200 I did not pay till the time of return filing. ठीक है. And I filed my return on 20th October 2022. So 57,200 पे 3 months के लिए 1% का रेट लगेगा. Even if October is not पूरा, still part of the month है, full 1% would be applicable. नेक्स्ट सिनेरियो लेते हैं. आई होप यू आर नोटेड इट. इफ यू वांट टू यू कैन. So let's take next scenario. Next scenario में क्या हुआ? My estimated income is final income is 10,50,000. The final tax is 1,32,600 on this income. मेरा during the previous year TDS 50,000 हो चुका था, advance tax 25,400 हो चुका था. ठीक है? This both happened in the previous year itself. Okay. 50,000 TDS काट दिया. 50,000 TDS कटा हुआ था मेरे लिए, तो मेरे को उसका क्रेडिट मिल गया. एडवांस टैक्स 25,400 का आई गॉट द क्रेडिट. नाउ रिमेनिंग टैक्स ड्यू व्हेन आई एंटर्ड असेसमेंट ईयर वाज 57,200. उसमें से आई डिपॉजिटेड सेल्फ असेसमेंट टैक्स ऑन 1st May 2022. अभी रिटर्न इज नॉट फाइल्ड, बट आई नो कि मेरा लाइबिलिटी है. दैट्स व्हाई एज एंड व्हेन आई गॉट सम इनकम कैश इन हैंड, I deposited the tax. So say 36,900, I deposited the tax on 1st May 2022. Anything which is paid in the assessment year is self-assessment tax. It is not advance tax. ठीक है? तो 36,900 मैंने deposit कर दिया. Now return filing date is 31st July. I filed the return on 20th October. I filed the return on 20th October. Now, on what rate 234A would be applicable? On what amount 234A would be applicable? Whether on this or whether on this? Whether on 57,200, which is the amount coming after the TDS and advance tax, which were my previous year credits, or after self-assessment tax, which I paid. So the correct answer is 20,300. जितना 31st July के बाद tax due है, उस पे TDS कटेगा, उस पे इंटरेस्ट लगेगा, उस पे interest would be applicable under section 234A. So 20,300 पे 234A के according I'll calculate the interest for 3 months. Is it clear? 609. You can copy the example if you want. Any doubt anyone has? Riddhi, I hope you got 1% per month or part of the month. 234B और C में भी हमने सेम करा था. 234A में भी it would be same 1% per month, पूरा month or part of the month. Even if it is one day of the month, full 1% would be calculated for the entire month. (234A) is clear. Shall we proceed? इसमें से MCQ आ सकता है to calculate the interest under section 234A, and this type of question would be given. ठीक है? This is a repercussion if you do not file the return of income on time. Next, interest लगेगा, साथ साथ fee भी लगेगा. Fee would also be applicable. One is interest, another is fee. Fee for default in furnishing return of income. Fee for default on furnishing the return of income. So fee is fixed. The fee would be 5,000. Where a person is required to furnish a return of income under Section 139 fails to do so within the prescribed time limit under Section 139(1), he shall pay by way of fee a sum of 5,000. So the moment you file a late return, आपको 5,000 देना है. The fee of 5,000 is applicable. But if your income does not exceed 5 lakhs, the fee will not exceed 1,000. The fee shall not exceed 1,000. Okay? So this is all about Section 139(1) and the repercussions in case you do not file the return of income within the time. Right? But now let's proceed and understand what other subsections mean the return of income has to be filed, as I told you earlier. Other than 139 में 139 1C क्या है? 1C में income tax power देता है that central government can exempt certain classes of people who may not require to file the return. So basically they will put them forward some notification through which they will exempt a category of person. There are categories of person which are exempt, but that is not applicable at your level. So 1C is just a clean read. Next is 139(3), return of loss. Now 139(3) is also the same return which we are talking about. It also has to be filed within the due date, but the moment आपके net income में loss आता है और there is a carry forward amount, वो बन जाता है return of income से return of loss. The moment there is loss in the income, your loss in the final result of your income, the return becomes from return of income or return of loss, and उसका section क्या लग जाता है? 139 subsection 3. 139 subsection 3. And if you remember, while we were doing setup and carry forward, उसमें section 80 में we saw that if you need to carry forward your losses, if you want to carry forward your losses, what is carry forward? जब internal set off, intra-head set off and inter-head set off के बाद still you have, when after intra-head and inter-head set off के बाद still you have certain losses which are not adjusted. Then you carry forward it to the next year, and carry forward के बाद it gets adjusted with the same head of income, right? Remember this? So to carry forward it, you have to file the return within the due date. Within the due date. That means timely return has to be filed. So you have to file the return within the due date. For what losses? If you want to carry forward your business loss, if you want to carry forward your speculative business loss, if you want to carry forward your specified business loss, if you want to carry forward your capital loss, or if you want to carry forward the loss for maintaining race courses. इन सबको carry forward करने के लिए you have to file the return of income within time. Within what time? The time which we mentioned in 139(1). Return आपका return of loss हो जाएगा, but time applicability is the due dates which we discussed. Okay. But there were two losses at that time we saw. They would be carry forwarded even if they would be carry forwarded even if the return is not filed on time. What were the two losses? House property loss and unabsorbed depreciation. इनको carry forward करने के लिए you do not have to file the return of income with, I will not do not have to, you may not file the return of income on time. Even if you file a late return, which we'll see, you can still carry forward the loss. I'm not, again and again, my focus word here, student, is on carry forward. My focus word, I'm saying that if you want to carry forward the loss, you have to file the return of income within time. After return of loss, बाद, maybe suppose if I file the return late and it is a loss return, it would still be a loss return under section 139(3). But I will not be allowed to carry forward such losses. Which losses? Business loss, all types of business loss, speculative, non-speculative, specified, non-specified, all type of capital loss, a loss from owning and maintaining race courses. So for these losses, I have to file the return of income which is my ultimate return of loss when I have to carry forward the loss. My focus word here is carry forward. If I have to set off the losses, matlab I carry forwarded the losses and I just have to set off. I do not want to carry it forward. Then I can file a late return also. यहाँ पे कंफ्यूज हो गया ना? तब इसका क्या मतलब है मैम? If you only have to do set off, simple such thing है. Please listen carefully. This is my income tax return. यहाँ पे I have only business loss, ठीक है, of 5 lakhs. If I want to carry it forward, I have to file it within due date, right? I have to file it within due date, simple, ठीक है. Now let's come to next year. This is my first year. Let's come to second assessment year. I had business income of 7 lakhs in the second assessment year. I brought forwarded this loss, carry forward, brought forward, we know the terms, okay, of 5 lakhs. This becomes 2 lakh. 2 lakh net income. Correct? Now, to set off this 5 lakh loss with 7 lakhs, it is not mandatory the return should be filed within due date. It is not mandatory the return should be filed due date. The return is required to be filed within the due date to carry forward the loss. So, isliye this has to be filed within due date. But if I just have to set off a loss, I can do it even if the return is filed late. Even if the return is filed late. So, isme due date का mandatory नहीं, obviously due date is recommended, but इसमें there is no mandate to file the return within the due date to set off the losses. Here, if you want to carry forward the loss, you have to file the return of income within due date. Now, suppose in the second assessment year, if instead of 7 lakh, I had only 3 lakhs. I had only 3 lakhs income. अब मुझे 2 lakhs फिर से carry forward करना पड़ता. Correct? So for 2 lakhs to be carried forwarded, the return has to be filed within due date. So कहने का crux is this, that if I want to carry forward the loss, the return has to be filed within due date. Set off can be done even if the late return is filed. Even if the later return is filed. So if someone talks to you when you go in the practical world and you see that the losses are being set off but nothing is carried forward, and you say no, set off is not allowed because due date mein nahi hote. No. Due date में condition is for carry forwarding the loss. For carry forwarding the loss. If there is a set off, you can do it still if you're filing a return of income after the due date. Abhishek, I'm just receiving a blank, not Abhishek, Abhinek. I'm just receiving blank from you, no queries. 148 clearly will do. ठीक है, don't worry. सबको क्लियर हुआ? The condition for 139, basically condition under section 80 is to carry forward the loss. You have to file the return within time. This is written in section 80. So, next we do a belated return. What is belated return? आप किसी का birthday miss कर देते हो और happy birthday बाद में करते हो, then you say belated happy birthday, right? Similarly, belated return is if you miss filing the return within the due date, but you file it later. You file it later, that would always be a belated return. It would be a belated return and it will be filed under section 139 subsection 4. So belated return would be filed under section 139 subsection 4 when you miss the due date and you file the return later. But is it that I can file the return at any time I want? There should be a closing period, right? Today, if I'm sitting, okay, let's file the return for previous year 16, 17. No, the government has its own processes, right? The government has its own processes. As and when you will go, you will see a return has to be filed, checked, closed, and then obviously some assessment comes. Okay, so there has to be a restriction for the time period till which you can file the belated return, right? So the belated return can be maximum filed within 9 months of the assessment year, 9 months of the assessment year, or they say 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment year, or simply you can write within 30 or by 31st December of the assessment year. So both the three things which I said both means the same. Within 9 months of the relevant assessment year, prior within before 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment year, that is 31st March से 3 months पहले तक, or by 31st December of the assessment year. Both not both, three of them means the same. So if I talk about previous year 21-22, assessment year 22-23, simple people like us who do not have audit, the return filing date is 31st July. So if he files the return by 31st July, it would be under section 139(1). If he files the return by 31st July, but the net result is loss, then the return would be filed under section 139(3). If he files the return after 31st July, but he has to file the return before 31st of December, then it would be 139(4). Okay, ma'am, can he not file the return after 31st December? No, he cannot file the return after 31st December. Ma'am, if there's a genuine case, COVID ho gaya and all those things, if there's a genuine case, you can write it to the income tax authority that please condone. Condone what hota hai? If they allow you the delay, if you have a valid ground that because of so and so reason I was unable to file the return of income, please condone the delay, they will condone the delay. Okay? But if you're filing a return of income by 139 under 139(4), what would be the repercussions? First, you have to see whether 234A का interest देना है या नहीं, right? Because late return है, 234A is applicable or not. Fees under section 234F would be applicable, right? उसके साथ साथ you will not be allowed to be carry forwarding your loss. Also, if you remember section 10AA में, it is written if you want to claim exemption under section 10AA, you have to file the return within time, which is within due date. If you not file the return within due date, you cannot claim section 10AA. So there are all these repercussions in case you file a late return, and you have to take care of all of these things. Now relate all the sections which you do with each section where there is a meaning of that. Okay. अब यहाँ पे एक और चीज लिखा हुआ है, मैम, before 3 months prior to the end of the relevance assessment year or before completion of assessment. Now what does this mean? और ये word काफी जगह we have read. What does this before completion of assessment mean? So basically, before completion of assessment means income tax authority has a right to assess your income. Income tax authority has a right to assess your income. So if they assess your income and close the final assessment by passing an order, and that happens before 31st December, and that happens before 31st December, say 31st October ko they filed the order. So you cannot file a belated return beyond 31st October. So before completion of assessment का मतलब है कि income tax authorities के assess करने से पहले you have to file the return of income. If income tax authorities assess the income, passes the final order, that means that is final. You will not file your statement of income now. That is closed. That the period has gone, the ship has sailed. Okay. So you have to file the return of income by 31st of December of assessment year or before completion of assessment. If a theory question comes, you have to write both the conditions. 139(4) clear? ड्रामा मतलब तो वही है ना, 9 months from the assessment, beginning of the assessment year, or 3 months prior to the end of the assessment year. Technically, you will write 3 months prior to end of assessment year, but to explain you, or 31st December, meanings are same, right? Do not forget to relate to these exceptions, okay? Now we come to revision of return. What is revision? Revision means that you file the return of assess income, okay? You file the return of income, and now you realize that, oh shit, I did not file my saving bank's interest, or I did not file the information about my deduction. I had made a donation and I did not claim it. I forgot to claim it. You can do it. You can do it. If you discover any omission or wrong statement in the return you filed, you can file a revised return. You can file a revised return as the name suggests. मैम लेट रिटर्न को भी रिवाइज कर सकते हैं, यस डिलेटेड रिटर्न को भी रिवाइज कर सकते हैं, ड्यू डेट वाला रिटर्न को भी रिवाइज कर सकते हैं, किसी भी टाइम रिवाइज कर सकते हैं, सुबह शाम रात, नो प्रॉब्लम, कितनी मर्जी बारी रिवाइज कर सकते हैं. यू कैन रिवाइज द रिटर्न मल्टीपल टाइम्स. इट इज देयर इज नो रिस्ट्रिक्शन. यू थिंक टुडे यू मेड वन एरर, देन यू थिंक day after that I made another error, then you think day after day after day after I made another error. You can revise the return as many times you like, okay? And every time you revise the return, it replaces the return which is filed earlier. It replaces the return which is filed earlier. As simple as that. You can revise your late return, you can revise your due date for the return, but again there has to be a window, because otherwise anyone would take an advantage of it. The window is same. The revision can be done at any time or n number of times before 3 months prior to the end of relevant assessment year, or before completion of assessment. That means before 31st December of assessment year or before completion of assessment, I can revise it n number of times. So what would be your last revised return? That would be your final return for the income tax authorities. ठीक है, you cannot say कि oh shit मैंने तो पहले से ही किया था, अभी गलत कर दिया तो पहले वाले को सही मानो. If you want that, you have to revise it again to bring it to the first part. Okay, so whatever is the latest revised return would be the final return. Clear? Now this is the summary of your revision of return under 139.1, 139.3, 139.4 and 139.5. In case you have any doubts from any of these, you can let me know. Completion of assessment क्या होता है? Completion of assessment means income tax authority has the right to assess your income. They have a right to calculate the income. Obviously, they will not do it. चलो आज करके खत्म कर देते हैं. No, Rama, they give you notices, they give you opportunity of hold, and they assess your income. ठीक है? They assess your income. The moment they assess the income and pass the final order, after that you cannot file a belated return or revise your return. ठीक है? Even if you have 31st December वाला timeline in hand, even if you have 31st December वाला timeline in hand, still if the income tax authority has passed their final order, that means now finished, no more time allowed. No more time allowed. ठीक है? Okay, clear? It's just like कि टीचर ने पहले चेकिंग करके आपका रिजल्ट दे दिया, so you cannot change your answer sheet. ठीक है? The moment the teacher has given the result, that is the final date. ठीक है? That is the return wala part also. What is the 0.5 in return of loss? A return of loss has to be filed by assessee in his own interest, and the non-receipt of notice from assessing officer require him to file the return cannot be a valid excuse under any circumstances for not filing of return. Basically, they are saying that assessee ka responsibility is his responsibility to file the return of loss. He cannot say that mujhe notice nahi mila, that's why I did not file the return of loss. Not a relevant part of it. Correct, Sumesh. The interest would be there on the unpaid amount, which the example which we did. Whatever is the unpaid amount as on due date, उस पे 234A would be applicable. Clear? So last section before we proceed to a break is 139.9. Simple सा section है. You can read in detail. Okay, so a question can come to you: can return of belated return be revised? Can revision of return can happen multiple times? You can write yes, the revision of return can happen multiple times provided it is done within the due date. Similarly, belated return can be also be revised provided it is done within the due date. Such types of 4 to 5 marks written theoretical question comes from this chapter. So to write the theoretical questions correctly, you should remember the subsections also. Okay. Another case is the case of defective return. What is defective return? You filed your return of income, be it under section 139.1, 139.3, 139.5, 139.4. Kisi maybe if you file the return of income, that is okay. But sometimes there can be a defect in it. Defect means suppose you had to attach the tax audit report, you did not attach the tax audit report. You mentioned the challan number wrong, or you did not mention the challan number for the tax deposited. So all of these things can happen, right? Or you selected a wrong form of return filing. There are multiple forms under which you have to file the return of income, depending upon the assessee and depending upon the assessee's income. Okay? There are various forms. Or you choose a wrong form to file the return of income. That means there is some defect. Prima facie basic defect hai aapka return mein, right? So if there is a defect in your return, the government gives you a notice. Gives you a notice as an intimation. It will come to your email also. It will appear in your dashboard also that so and so defect is there in return. So and so defect is in the return. Kindly rectify it. Kindly rectify it. What does rectify means? Correct it. Kindly rectify it. And this has to be rectified within 15 days from such intimation. So if I have told you today, which is 20th, then by 4th of August, 15 days calculate kar lena, you have to rectify the error. So if I take, give a note, I am the income tax authority, gives you a notice that your tax audit report was not mentioned. You have to rectify that error within 15 days. Within 15 days. Ma'am, if you do not rectify the error within 15 days, your return would be treated as invalid. Your return would be treated as invalid. It will be assumed that no return was filed by you. No return was filed by you, and all the repercussions of non-filing the return would be applicable to you. So all the consequences of non-filing the return would be applicable to you. So you have to rectify the error within 15 days of such intimation. And if you do not rectify it, your return would become invalid. But if you want that 15 days is the other period you want, you can tell the assessing officer that kindly extend this 15 days period. He may extend that 15 days period. Okay, so with this we covered section 139.9. After the class we'll proceed with PAN numbers. Okay, so not after the class, after the break we'll proceed with PAN numbers. See you in 10 minutes. Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome back from the break. I believe there are a few questions to answer before we proceed to the next topic. Okay, so Riddhi has asked now what is the difference between revised return and correcting the defective return? Very interesting question, Riddhi. See, revised return is first you're doing it on your own, suo moto. No one is saying you to do it. Okay, you know that this error has been made, you know that this correction has to be done. You file that revised return. Defective return happens when some intimation comes to you from the department. So whatever defect return you will rectify it, it will go under 139.9 for defective return. The sections changes. It's not an assessment per se, it's an intimation from the department on a prima facie because होता क्या है department को आपका return process होता है. All the returns which are filed under the income tax, they are processed. एक basic processing के through they go. Computerized processing, that is a computerized processing that happens. So in that computerized processing, some error, if the income tax gets to know that there is this error, they send you an intimation. It's not a notice. As you will go for the further levels, you'll see that there's a difference between intimation and notice. So they send you an intimation that so and so thing is wrong. You just have to rectify it. It's not an assessment. Assessment जब होता है ना, assessment happens in a proper detailed manner. They ask for the information, you provide the information, they tell you that this should happen, you tell no, this should not be happen. They give you opportunity of being heard. So assessments are the whole process, a proper process with to and fro communications, and then a final order is passed. But intimation यहाँ पे computerized processing से पता चल जाता है that there is a defect. Defect is a small part which you can rectify. Jameen, see, first of all, TDS has to be filed. The TDS can be refunded only for the year for which it is deducted. But if you have not filed the return to show your income this year, then you have to change all the scenarios of the TDS. वहाँ पे year change करना पड़ेगा. All those things happen, and then only you can file the return of income to claim that TDS amount. Okay, so now shall we begin with the other part? Now what awaits are the other provisions. Other provisions like PAN number, Aadhaar number, we all know what PAN number is, or do we not? What is a PAN number? I told you in the previous classes also. PAN number is a unique number which every assessee in income tax is allotted. PAN number के लिए you have to make an application number 1, okay? And you are given a PAN number in form 49A or 49AA if you're a foreign person, foreign citizen. Okay, you make an application to the authority. Simple application के base पे they allot you the PAN, where you have to provide your proof of identification, your address proof, and what is the category of person, whether you're an individual assessee or you're an HUF or you're partnership firm. Company के case में PAN is now automatically allotted these days. The moment a company is incorporated, they are allotted PAN number also through SPICE form. Practical scenarios, this is how it happens. So permanent account number is a unique number through which the income tax authorities identify you. ठीक है, अब 2 रमेश खुराना हो सकते हैं, 3 रमेश खुराना हो सकते हैं, multiple रमेश खुराना हो सकते हैं, the population of 130 crores, right? So they give a unique number. It's an alphanumeric number. How many of you have PAN numbers? If you don't have and you all are Major, I strongly recommend you to apply PAN. Okay, it's a very easy process to apply PAN. Alphanumeric number होते हैं जिसमें से first four are alphabet, then next four are unique digit combination, and then the last is also alphabet. The third and the fourth tells about the category of person you are, and the last would be the initial of the surname. So you can check your PAN number if you have that. The fourth digit would be the initial of your surname. Sorry, the fifth digit would be the initial of your surname. First 5, then 4, and then 1. Total 10. So the fourth would identify whether you are a individual, whether you're a company, whether it's an HUF PAN. If P is written, it's an individual. If H is written, it's for HUF. If C is written, it's for company. If the second, so the fifth alphabet would be the first letter of your surname in case of individual. Okay, this is the general trivia information. Now back to the permanent account number. Permanent account number is mandatory to apply. When it is mandatory to apply, there are certain categories which the government has defined. So if you are a person who knows that his total income, or if clubbed, it would be more than basic exemption limit, you have to apply for PAN by 31st of May of the assessment year for which the income is assessable. So if you're talking about previous year 21-22, and you know previous year 21-22 May you have income more than basic exemption limit, so by 31st May 2022 that you have to apply for PAN. You have to apply for PAN. If you are running a business, and you know that the sales or the turnover would exceed 5 lakhs, then by the end of the financial year, you should apply for PAN. By end of the financial year, you should apply for PAN. What would be the end of financial year? By 31st of March 2022. Even if you think that it will cross 5 lakhs, then by 31st March 2022, you should apply for PAN. Or if you're a person, or if you're a resident person and is entering into any financial transaction, it can be any financial transaction, sale, purchase, loan, any financial transactions of an amount exceeding 2,50,000, then you have to apply for PAN by 31st May of the following financial year. That is by 31st May of the assessment year. So if you think in this financial year 21-22, your transactions would be more than 2,50,000 financial transactions. So that by 31st of May 2022, you should file an application for PAN. Or if you are a director, partner, managing director, karta, CEO, principal officer of the categories which we discussed here, this third wale mein, then also you have to immediately apply for PAN by 31st of May. Okay, PAN apply nahi karoge, so there's a penalty of 10,000. So you should apply for PAN. Okay, and even if you're not falling in the categories of these people, you can still apply for PAN on voluntary basis. It's not that only these people would be allotted PAN. Anyone can apply for PAN, but for these people, the PAN has to be obtained compulsorily. Okay. Then, where do you have to quote your PAN? Remember when we talk about TDS, TCS, PAN number of deductee has to be given. So in TDS document, PAN has to be given. In all your correspondence, basically in all your communications with income tax authority, the PAN has to go. In any challan, in any tax which you're depositing, the PAN has to go, because government ke liye you are not a person by your name. The government ke liye you are the person by your PAN, income tax department ke liye. So anything which you're doing for the income tax purpose would be communicated through that PAN number only. They do not type the name, they type the PAN number to get the information. Okay. उसके अलावा students, there are transactions in which quoting of PAN is mandatory. In which quoting of PAN is mandatory. So there's a list of 17, 18 transactions, which I'll quickly take you through. You can read this list one and remember some very few of the threshold limit, so that if an MCQ comes, you can do it. Okay. So I'll read this list, but abhi tak anyone has any doubt? Very good, Himanshu. So I hope Himanshu, Sumesh, if you people have PAN, you can check that whether fifth digit is your so Sumesh Kharat, fifth digit would be K, or Himanshu Gupta, fifth digit would be G. So Jameen, in that case, it would be randomly allotted. जो भी आपने लास्ट दिया होता है उस पे it would be allotted. So these are the areas where quoting of PAN are mandatory. So suppose if you're making any purchase of motor vehicle other than two-wheeler vehicles, so other than scooters or bike, you're making any sale or purchase of motor vehicle, उस transactions में you have to quote your PAN number. Any sale purchase, it can be second hand, first hand, does not matter. But if there is a sale purchase of motor vehicle as per Motor Vehicle Act, then you have to quote the PAN number. Okay? If you open an account other than an FD account, or a basic saving bank account, then in that case you have to tell your PAN number. If you're making an application for issue of credit or debit card, for that also you need a PAN number. So aage se if you go and apply credit card, first think whether you have a PAN number or not. Or a debit card, you need to have a PAN number. If you want to open a demat account, uske liye bhi you need to have a PAN number. If you stay in a hotel or a restaurant where the bill comes for more than 50,000 and you make a payment in cash, then you have to quote your PAN number. If you're making foreign travel and you're purchasing payment for foreign currency, and that foreign currency is paid by taking in cash, you have to quote a PAN number. Payment for mutual funds. If you're purchasing any mutual funds for an amount exceeding 50,000, you have to quote your PAN number. If you're purchasing company ka bonds or debentures for an amount exceeding 50,000, you have to quote PAN number. If you're taking RBI ka bonds for an amount exceeding 50,000, you have to quote your PAN number. If you are making a deposit with a banking company or post office for a cash deposit exceeding 50,000, you have to quote a PAN number. So abhi aaj tak if you have gone for deposit slip, kabhi deposit slip bhara hai, cash deposit slip bank mein. So whenever if you go and deposit cash, wahan pe they ask a column is PAN. Wahan pe you have to write the PAN number, and that is mandatory if you're depositing 50,000 se zyada ka cash. So cashier ke paas you go, take that cash and try one time of depositing more than 50,000 without PAN number. He will say, sir, is deposit slip pe PAN number quote karo. Okay? Same, अगर DD या पे orders के लिए आप cash payment करते हो for 50,000 or more, you have to give your PAN number. FD खोल रहे हो, if you are opening any FD with banking company, post office, Nidhi Bank, NBFCs for an amount exceeding 50,000, एक FD 50,000 से ज़्यादा है या और in aggregate the FDs are more than 5 lakhs, you have to give your PAN number. Prepaid instruments ले रहे हो RBI के, prepaid payment methods के, prepaid को instrument ले रहे हो where the payment in cash by your bank draft or by order or bank check of an amount aggregating of more than 50,000, then you have to give your PAN number. Life insurance premium का payment करते हो, you pay life insurance ATC, उसका payment हो रहा है premium का if that is more than 50,000 in aggregate. 10,000 के 5 premiums or 50,000 10,000 के 6 premium or more than 50,000 का 1 premium, you have to tell your PAN number. You are making sale purchase of securities, then and the transaction ka value is exceeding 1 lakh, you have to tell your PAN number. You're making sale purchase of commodities or for shares of a company, the value is more than 1 lakh, you have to tell your PAN number. Sale or purchase of immovable property, jiska stamp duty value is more than 10 lakh. Stamp duty values of more than 10 lakhs. So basically, आप registry कराने चाह रहे हो, and the stamp duty values of more than 10 lakhs, they will ask, the registered officer will ask for the PAN number. ठीक है? Sale or purchase by any person for purchase of any goods of any nature other than those specified by 1 or 17. So if you're entering into any financial transaction where the value is involved is of more than 2 lakhs, then you have to tell your PAN number. So this is not basically you have to tell your PAN number to the income tax authorities, to the other person, that so-and-so transaction has happened. What will be the use of all those transactions? They will report such transactions. They will report such transactions in a statement of financial transaction where high value transactions are getting reflected. So इससे क्या होगा? If the government has an information that इस PAN ने debentures लिए हैं, mutual funds लिए, the government is having all that information, all that data under your PAN. So if the other day you show to the government that I do not have any debentures, I do not have any demat account, I do not have anything, so government has all the knowledge because you quoted your PAN while opening demat account, so they have all the knowledge that you have a demat account, you're doing sale and purchase, and still you're not showing sale purchase ka income from that sale purchase in your return. That means you're a defaulter. They will ask for you to file the correct details. Assessment will happen. So the government does not play on no information. They have all the information from all these routes, and ultimately they match their information with your information to see whether you are telling the correct details or not. So कल को, if for example you show that you paid LIC premium of 80,000, but under your PAN no premium is registered because more than 50,000 के premium के लिए तो it shows, right? The government will immediately issue you that dude, you have not paid 80,000 का premium, you are showing it wrong. You are showing it wrong because income tax return करते file, you are just telling the particulars of income. You are not submitting the proof. You're not submitting the proofs. Remember, nowhere you are submitting the proofs. You're just telling a statement that this is my income from this source. This is the taxes. This is how I paid the taxes through TDS. I got credit. This is advance tax. This is my self-assessment tax. All of this, right? You do not give the proofs. Okay, आप receipts लगा रहे हो. Nothing happens. So government will say कि आपने 80,000 का premium pay नहीं किया because 50,000 से ज़्यादा premium के लिए PAN लगता है. And under your PAN, this is not there. Okay? So this is how all the ecosystem of the information flow happens. Okay? So you can go through the list. Remember few certain transactions के demat account के लिए चाहिए sale stamp duty value 10 lakh का होना चाहिए तब PAN चाहिए. Just do not devote more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes to this particular thing कि आप लगे पड़े हो सुबह से शाम तक इसको याद करने के लिए. Okay? Yeah, most of the transactions will reflect in your AIS. Not all, but yeah, most of it. Yes, they have the information of all your data. बेसिक सेविंग अकाउंट होता है जिसका कोई मिनिमम बैलेंस नहीं है. इट्स लाइक डिजिटल इंडिया में सबके सेविंग अकाउंट्स खुले हैं, राइट? दैट इज अ बेसिक सेविंग अकाउंट. And otherwise, saving accounts are so fancy. There come categories of saving accounts. You go visit any bank, they will give you 10 different types of saving accounts. Hey, वो saving accounts, but they come with extractive benefits, more saving balance maintenances, all of those things, transaction limits. So that those are those fancy saving accounts. So if a minor opens a bank account and he may not apply for PAN, it is not necessary for him to apply for PAN. The father, the guardian or the father, mother ka PAN number will also due. Okay, so in this case, if any of the transaction happens in the name of minor, the guardian ka PAN number will also do. कोई क्वेरी किसी को? चलो ग्रेट. Rekha, it is reaching. What are your query? Can you please tell? It's not that कि bank account खुलने पे Rekha you will get PAN number. You have to apply separately for PAN number. So, with Aadhaar coming in place and government making the use of Aadhaar more and more significant, there comes a point where PAN and Aadhaar can be used interchangeably. What do you mean by interchangeability of PAN and Aadhaar? That where PAN is required to be mentioned, but if you do not have PAN, you can mention your Aadhaar number also. So in the cases which we saw, if you do not have a PAN number, the accounts have been opened basis the Aadhaar number, because interchangeability of PAN and Aadhaar is now allowed in income tax. Also, where a person who is required to furnish PAN, he may quote Aadhaar number in his case of PAN. अगर उसके पास PAN number नहीं है, if he does not have PAN number, or if he has linked his PAN with Aadhaar, in both the cases he can quote the Aadhaar number. In both the cases he can quote the Aadhaar number. Also, in case you have an Aadhaar number, remember I told you at just few minutes back that you have to file Form 49A to apply for PAN, right? Just when you give the proofs of residence, the proof of identity, you fill a form, it's a 10 minutes form and all of these things, and you pay a fees. But if you have an Aadhaar number, you can instantly apply for allotment of PAN. Just go to income tax portal where you can just apply for PAN, and within 2 minutes, the PAN would be allotted to you based on Aadhaar. You just have to put in your Aadhaar number, verify that Aadhaar number, OTP say, and within 2-3 minutes, the PAN number would be allotted to you. It is that quick. No need to submit any additional document. So by intimating the Aadhaar number, you can get instant PAN. This is a category of instant PAN allotment. Okay, so for those who do not have PAN but wish to obtain one, they can instantly apply through Aadhaar. If you do not have Aadhaar number, but if you have your enrollment number, Aadhaar enrollment number, you can enroll, put that also. And quoting of Aadhaar is mandatory in your PAN. In all the if you have Aadhaar number, then you have to quote the Aadhaar number in application of allotment and return of income. So if you will see in all return of income, if you have seen any return form, there is PAN number and there is Aadhaar number also both the numbers have to be mentioned. And abhi I think everyone must have heard about linking of Aadhaar and PAN. The Aadhaar and PAN should be linked. Simple एक column होता है. You have to link your PAN with Aadhaar. That's for this PAN. This is the Aadhaar number, so that it can be used interchangeably. It can be used interchangeably. There have been multiple times government, I think 6-7 तो मुझे याद है कि government has extended the due dates of linking Aadhaar with PAN, linking Aadhaar with PAN, linking Aadhaar with PAN. You may have seen that in various newses, but the latest date to link Aadhaar with PAN was 31st March 2022. If you do not link Aadhaar with PAN, what will happen? Your PAN will become inoperative. The PAN will become inoperative. Now, inoperative का क्या मतलब है? That means you did not have PAN at first place. Even if you had PAN, but you did not link your Aadhaar with PAN, it will become inoperative. It will become inoperative. So, ma'am, operate कैसे होगा? The moment you will link your PAN with Aadhaar, the PAN will automatically become operative. The PAN will automatically become operative. So, if you do not link your PAN with Aadhaar, your PAN becomes inoperative. That means आपके पास PAN है ही नहीं. You did not have a PAN at first place. But the moment you link your Aadhaar with PAN, it will become operative. So government ने इसको, if this is covered in your RTP, government ने इसका time limit has been extended to 31st March 2023. But 31st March 2022 is the final time limit applicable to you. इनऑपरेटिव होने का टाइम लिमिट गवर्नमेंट ने 31st मार्च 2023 कर दिया है, बट बिटवीन 31st March 2022 and 31st March 2023, if you link your PAN, you have to pay fees. You have to pay fees. इनऑपरेटिव वो 31st March 2023 से होगा. Timeline was 31st March 2022, but between 31st March 2022 and 31st March 2023, if you link the PAN, then you have to pay the fees. The fees is 1,000. The fees is 1,000. But if you had done it before 30th June 2022, which just passed, the fees was 500. I'll repeat again. PAN and Aadhaar has to be linked. If they're not linked, the PAN becomes inoperative. But what is the due date of linking the PAN? The due date of linking the PAN was 31st March 2022. But inoperative को timeline को एक साल और extend कर दिया, that by 31st March 2023, if you still do not link the PAN, it will become inoperative from 31st March 2023. But between 31st March 2022 and 31st March 2023, if you link the PAN, you have to pay the fees. The fees is maximum 1,000, but up till 30th June 2022, it was 500. So this would be covered in your RTP, do not worry. Okay, but all of this Aadhaar purposes and stuff would not be applicable to 4 categories of person. 4 categories of person. All these Aadhaar and PAN things which we saw about linking and quoting of Aadhaar in your PAN application and your return filing would not be applicable to whom? To any person who is a resident of Assam, J&K and Meghalaya. For obvious reasons here, multiple state laws have come into pictures and all those things are happening. So Assam, J&K and Meghalaya ka, if you're a resident person, quoting of Aadhaar wala section would not be applicable. If you're a non-resident, quoting of Aadhaar wala section would not be applicable. Obviously, if you're a non-resident, why would you come to India, get your Aadhaar? Okay? If you're a person of the age of 80 years or more, this section would not be applicable. And if you're a non-citizen of India, this section would not be applicable. So what are the 4 categories in which quoting of Aadhaar and linking of Aadhaar is not applicable? A person residing in Assam, J&K and Meghalaya, non-resident person, person of age 80 years or more, because obviously is of so much age, the government does not want additional headache on him, and a person who's a non-citizen of India, who is not a citizen of India. Okay? Any doubt for PAN or Aadhaar? Okay, so I have some very interesting questions. Ayush, obviously, if you were a minor and you applied for PAN then, and you can apply for PAN, the minor can apply for PAN. There is no restriction for a minor to apply for PAN. But if a minor does not have a PAN, then the guardian PAN or the father and mother PAN can be quoted. So instant PAN के केस में एक चीज स्टूडेंट रिमेम्बर, इफ इंस्टेंट पैन अलॉटमेंट इफ यू वांट टू गो थ्रू, if in case you want any particulars different from Aadhaar, that in case आपको PAN number में different resident address mention करना है या different और कोई details mention करना है, then you have to apply the PAN through proper 49A form. This is all the practicalities. I'm not confusing you. Someone asked for this question. This is not in your particular chapter. So Jameel, in case you want any different information which is not in your Aadhaar, because Aadhaar में जो information है वो same PAN में information reflect होगी for instant allotment. If you want any other information, you have to file for form 49A. Rekha is asking, ma'am, if a person gets PAN after 31st March 2023, then how can he link? It's simple, Rekha. If you're applying for a PAN after 31st March 2023, abhi I told you कि when you're applying for PAN, you have to quote your Aadhaar number, right? So वो automatically link हो ही जाएगा, okay? हाँ, e-PAN के केस में you do not get hard copy. If you want hard copy, you have to pay fees. You have to pay fees by filing from 49A. Instant PAN के केस में. Any other doubts? Perfect. Now we'll proceed to, I'll skip 139B for a second. We'll proceed to section 140, which is your verification of return. And we'll do verification, self-assessment, and then we'll come back to 139B. Okay? So what is verification of return of income? Verification means signing of return of income. That end में ना declaration sort of आता है, I Ridhima Bhatia has filed the particulars of the return of income of so and so in individual capacity. Of all the particulars are correct, place and date, you have to verify the return. So verification is that you are giving a declaration that whatever return of income I'm filing, that is right. That is right. So who will verify the return? Obviously, the individual who is filing the return, he himself will verify the return. He himself will verify the return. So when I'm filing my return, I will verify my return. Okay. But if I'm outside India, still I can verify the return. वहाँ पे place आ जाएगा wherever I am. But if I'm outside India and I am not in knowledge of how the return should be filed and all those things, I'll give a power of attorney to a person, authorize him to file my return of income, and that person will verify my return of income. If an individual is mentally incapacitated to attend the affairs, but he has income, his guardian can verify the return, or any person who is competent to act on behalf of this person can verify the return. And if there's any other reason due to which the individual is not able to verify the return, any person on his behalf can verify the return who he has authorized through power of attorney. Okay? Who he has authorized through power of attorney. Okay? This is your verification of return for individual. Now for non-individual, we know that HUF is a non-individual, it's a non-living person, or a company is a non-living person. Company खुद तो अपना return file नहीं कर रहा होगा. Someone would be verifying the particulars. So now see, verification becomes more of an importance in case of non-individual. Individual mein to we know that individual will do, right? But what about HUF? Who would verify the return? Okay, but before that I have a few queries. Rekha, that's what I'm saying. Opening of not having a bank account does not mean that you cannot apply for PAN. You can apply for PAN. It is okay. Yes, no one should have more than one PAN. If you have more than one PAN, you should surrender one. There's a penalty for 10,000. No. New PAN nahi hota hai. If your PAN card is damaged, you can just apply for the application for fresh PAN card to be issued. PAN number remains the same. Or if you want to correct one of your particulars of PAN, then you can file for correction of PAN. कि आपका एड्रेस चेंज गया था या आपका नाम चेंज हो गया पोस्ट मैरिज, ऑल ऑफ दीज इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए कैन अप्लाई फॉर करेक्शन ऑफ पैन. वेरिफिकेशन में किसी को कोई डाउट? ओके, नाउ लेट्स प्रोसीड इन अंडरस्टैंडिंग. HUF के केस में हु वुड वेरीफाई द रिटर्न? HUF के केस में मोस्ट इंपोर्टेंटली फर्स्ट पर्सन वुड बी कर्ता to verify the return. But if Karta is outside India, then any member can verify the return. But any member should be any adult member. Minor member cannot verify the return. But if Karta is mentally incapacitated, suppose he is into some state of shock because of some event or some happening, then again any other member can verify the return. इसके केस में भी डिफेक्ट आ सकता है. सपोज HUF का रिटर्न किसी माइनर मेंबर ने वेरीफाई करके भेज दिया, सो डिफेक्ट वुड कम हियर आल्सो. ठीक है. Then कंपनी के केस में who would verify the return? Obviously the managing director of the company. Primer part में managing director of the company would verify the return. But if managing director is outside India or due to unavoidable reason he cannot verify the return, then any director of the company or any other person as may prescribed for this purpose. ये क्या है? We will come to it. Okay. अगर कंपनी का मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर है ही नहीं, if there is no managing director in the company, there is no concept of managing director, then any director. Where the company is not resident in India, that is, it's a foreign company, not resident, then a person who holds valid power of attorney from such company can verify the return. So आपको basic prima facie याद रखना है. HUF में कर्ता not available, any member. Company में managing director not available, no managing director, then any director or any other person prescribed. What is this? We'll come to that. ठीक है. If company is gone into liquidation, company wound up होने वाला है, कंपनी का liquidation process start हो चुका है, company has gone into liquidation, then liquidator will verify the return. ठीक है. The liquidator will verify the return. Where the management of the company has been taken over by the central government, then the principal officer of the company will verify the return. This you will see in the coming years कि अगर management issue होता है, some management fraud is happening, then central government, as per company's law, central government takes the power of board of director and they appoint a principal officer. That principal officer is required to file the return because company ko to return they always have to file, right? So in that case, the principal officer will verify the return. If there's the insolvency process has begun as per IBC, Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, then the insolvency professional appointed by such adjudicating authority. Who is the adjudicating authority? Who is taking care as per IBC of such insolvency, then the whosoever professional has been appointed by the adjudicating authority has to verify the return. ठीक है. Firm के केस में managing partner, but if there is no managing partner or due to unavoidable reason managing partner cannot verify the return, then any partner, obviously not a minor partner. LLP के केस में like companies में we have directors and partnership firms में we have partner. LLP के केस में we have designated partner. Designated partner. So designated partner can verify the return, but if designated partner is not there or is outside India or cannot file the return or verify the return, then any partner. Local authorities के case में principal officer does the verification. Political parties, CEO does the verification, or any other case में any member of the association. AOP के case में any member of AOP can verify the return. ठीक है. अभी प्रिस्क्राइब्ड अथॉरिटी क्या है? गवर्नमेंट ने इनकम टैक्स में डिफाइन किया है who are the prescribed authority, but these are not applicable at your level. But prescribed authority generally are in case of insolvency, any professional which is appointed by the adjudicating authority, that would be the prescribed authority, but that is not applicable at your level. Any doubt? अब कोई what if scenario मैम ऐसा हो तो not all the members, only one of the person has to verify the return. On behalf of all the HUF, they are doing it, but only one has to do. Rekha, please stick to verification. See, Karta, director, managing director, partner, managing partner, these all are allowed by default. Power of attorney कहाँ आता है? Individuals के case में when he is out of India, then the concept of power of attorney comes, or if he is mentally incapacitated, then the concept of power of attorney comes. Otherwise, तो HUF for directors के case में, HUF in companies and firm के case में तो we have Karta and directors. Okay, Jimmy. ठीक है. So verification of returns here. अब मैम इसमें से क्वेश्चन कैसा आएगा? क्वेश्चन एक हाइपोथेटिकल क्वेश्चन आएगा. सपोज द कंपनी डज नॉट हैव अ मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर हु विल वेरीफाई द रिटर्न, or the partner is outside India, the managing partner is outside India, who will verify the return, or if the Karta is outside India, who can verify the return? Or a question can come, any partner of a firm can verify the return of the income. So you will write it like this, that this statement is partly correct or partly incorrect, because first managing partner has to verify the return. If managing partner is not there or no such designation is there, then any partner can verify the return, but not minor. Okay, so out of what you know for the self verification, that you have to write it down. Okay, do not assume that ये तो government, ये तो paper checker को पता होगा या नहीं. Verification can never be done by CA. CA का आधार कार्ड से OTP थोड़ी ना verify होता है. They may file the return of income, but ultimate verification you are doing. Okay, Samesh? Rekha, obviously the person who has verified the return first, they would be liable. Then we have to see what kind of fraud are we talking about. Whether the tax liability का fraud is there, then tax liability में everyone is jointly liable and severally liable in case of partnership firm, then that is a separate thing. As I know you people are all smart, just keep your topics for final level also, right? Yes, you get theory questions also, Pooja, in income tax exam. There is not all practical. Theory questions hai, provisions you have to remember and you have to write it the way it is written. So the only way to remember, write it in the way it is written is to read the law. To read the law, that is to read your Bible, which is your study material. Next, बार बार एक चीज we were saying self assessment, भाई, but what is this self assessment? One part of the chapter is self-assessment also. But what is self-assessment? Self-assessment means on your own assessment when you're depositing the tax. On your own assessment, you're depositing the tax. But any tax deposited in the previous year itself is advance tax. Any tax deposited after the previous year during the assessment year before return filing is self-assessment tax. Return filing se pehle. Why I'm saying it? Because practically you cannot file the return if any tax is due. If any tax is due. So whatever you deposit in the 1st April of the assessment year till the time you file the return, that would be your self-assessment tax. That would be your self-assessment tax. Obviously, you'll be depositing it for previous year 21-22. ऐसा नहीं है कि इसमें कुछ भी टैक्स डिपॉजिट कराया would be your self-assessment. बाबा, year 22-23 is a previous year also in itself. So uske liye what you would be depositing would be advance tax. But this year is also an assessment year for this previous year. So whatever you're depositing for this previous year in the assessment year would be your self-assessment tax. Okay, so do not assume कि मैम फिर advance tax कैसे लगेगा? No, government को मैं लिखूंगी कि this tax is deposited for which year. If it is the ongoing year, it is the advance tax. If it is the previous year and I am depositing in the assessment year and I am telling that this is for previous year 21-22, that is self-assessment tax. Okay, and how do I calculate self-assessment tax? Simple, my tax liability minus advance tax minus TDS minus any relief which I get under section 89, any MAT credit which I got. What is MAT credit? You will see in your final level. Okay, after that, whatever I deposit is self-assessment tax. Self-assessment tax can be deposited multiple times. There is no limit. I can deposit it on April, I can deposit it in May, June, July. There are no limits. But remember one thing, whenever you deposit the tax, first government adjusts it with the fees which is due to you, compulsory fees. Then they adjust it with the interest and ultimately it goes to the tax wala part. So suppose if, just for an example, hypothetically, 234B ka interest lag ke, the tax liability is 4 lakh, okay? And 234B ka interest is 4,000. Suppose, hypothetically, I'm saying, and you deposited 4 lakh. So government will assume that first you deposited 4,000 and tax ke liye you have deposited 3,96,000. Okay, they will not say that 4 lakh is for tax part, abhi interest part is still yet to come. Government will first adjust the fee, then interest, and then the tax amount. Okay. Clear? So this is about your self-assessment tax. Now we come to the final topic, which is tax return preparer. Any doubt for self-assessment? Definitely, just let us complete this topic, and if return are not verified, then Mohammed, very valid question. If you do not verify the return, you will assume that you have not filed the return. It is a defective return. It is an invalid return. Rekha, for how many years will you pay previous year tax? Maximum in the previous year, all till return filing year. So that would be self-assessment. Agar, this is again a general information. If income tax ke order pay, if you're paying any tax, that is not self-assessment. You did not assess it, right? Government, the income tax authority assessed it and you're paying it. That would be a tax on regular assessment. So that would be a regular assessment tax. Whatever you self-verify and pay it would be self-assessment tax. So government came up with a scheme for submission of returns to tax return preparers. Generally, you think एक तो एक सबसे common notation होता है that you become a CA, then only you can file the return. No, nowhere it is that a CA can file a return. Anyone can file the return. You yourself can also file a return. CAs are for audit, for verification of information. Okay, so anyone can file the return. Yes, CA helps you. Your chartered accountant helps you filing the return because he has your all data. If he's maintaining your books of accounts and if he's filing your all returns, be it TDS, TCS, GST, so he has your all books of accounts basically, and then he files the return. That is one thing. But anyone can file the return. You, me, anyone. But government came up with a scheme under section 139B that to file a return through tax return preparers. Tax return preparers, they are TRP. Okay? These people are individual who study thoda sa income tax, not a professional level ka income tax of being a CA, but the basic provisions of the Income Tax Act. It's like an employment scheme for them. Okay? Course ke through they study the provisions of return filing, kya hona chahiye, and they become a certified tax return preparer. Okay? After giving an exam, they become a certified tax return preparer, and they can help you file your income tax return. They can help you file your income tax return. So, who would be a tax return preparer? An individual. The name says tax return को prepare करने वाला, the person who prepares the tax return. So an individual would be a tax return preparer, but for whom he can be a tax return preparer? He can be a tax return preparer for only individuals and HUF. He cannot file a company ka return as a TRP or a firm ka return as a TRP. He only can file for an individual or HUF. Okay, so any individual and HUF can take the benefit of tax return preparer. What are the educational qualification? As such, he should just be a graduate. But who cannot be a tax return preparer? An accountant, basically a chartered accountant, a legal practitioner cannot be a tax return preparer. An officer of a scheduled bank with which an assessee maintains a current account or has other regular dealings. So suppose Sham has to file a return. Okay? He comes to you. You are a TRP. But you at the same time is an officer of a bank account with which Sham has the regular dealings. With which Sham has regular dealings, then you cannot be a TRP for Sham. You cannot be a TRP for Sham. You can be a TRP, but you cannot be a TRP for Sham. Okay? Then uske saath saath, if you are a specified class of individual. What is a specified class of individual? Specified class of the individual means person whose accounts are required to be audited. Person whose accounts are required to be audited, those are specified class of individuals. And if you're an employee of a specified class of individual, you cannot be the tax return preparer for that employee. So basically, an individual jiska audit hoga, he cannot file the return through TRP, number one. And obviously, you cannot be the TRP for this individual being an employee. Simple. Okay, so इस पे बहुत कम questions आता है. We'll do one practical question so that you can understand. उसमें he would be who can avail the services of TRP and who can be a TRP. And he can also not be a TRP of a non-resident. Let's see this question. Rekha, someone asked me if theory question comes. These are the types of theory question. Mrs. Hetal, I think Pooja asked, Mrs. Hetal, an individual engaged in the business of beauty parlor, has got her books of account for the financial year 31st March 2022 audited under 44A. Her total income is 6,35,000. She wants to furnish her return of income through a tax return preparer. Can she do so? She cannot do so because a person whose accounts are required to be audited the government say we cannot take the risk लेना ही नहीं बाबा, and they will not file the return through TRP. उसके लिए you should take a professional help. Okay, but if her accounts would not be required to be audited, she can file the return through tax return preparer. So जिसका audit होता है, they cannot file the return through tax return preparers. Clear? Any doubt? Please go through it. किसी को कोई भी डाउट है? You can go through this question. Such type of 2 markers question can come. As simple as that. It's a very easy scheme. Because she is not allowed to file through TRP. वो हो ही नहीं सकता. TRP के case में, if a TRP is filing the return, they have to quote their TRP number, that if this is a return filed through TRP and this is the number of that person who's a TRP. वो error दिखाएगा if he's filing through TRP. Chalo, great. So this is all from my side. You can go through the provision of this chapter, and trust me, you can revise this chapter in 1 hour for your exam. It's a very simple chapter. What you have to do is first revise 139.1, who is required to file the returns, due dates, then go to 139.3, loss return. उसको technically कैसे लिखना है? 139.3 is return of loss, but section 80 के according you have to file return of loss within the due date to carry forward the loss. ठीक है? It is not written in 139.3 that you should file the return within the due date. You can file a return of loss later also, but section 80 के according return of loss has to be filed within the due date. And what is a return of loss? Where the loss has to be carry forwarded. Then 139.4, 139.5, 139.9, 234A, 234A, which is your interest, and 234F, which is your fee. Then move to PAN number का quoting का थोड़ा सा go through that list एक बार. Go through quoting of Aadhaar is not mandatory for whom, linking date, and you are done and sorted. And theoretical question can come, and if a person has a PAN number, if a person has an Aadhaar number, can he apply for PAN? Yes, he can apply for instant PAN. No need to submit the documents. All the such question can come. If he doesn't have an Aadhaar, can he quote PAN number? Yes, he can quote Aadhaar number in case of PAN, provided it is linked with PAN. ठीक है? Whenever you're applying for PAN, you will have to quote your Aadhaar number. When you're filing your return of income, you have to quote your Aadhaar number. ठीक है? And then go through the list of verification who can verify the returns, and you would be good to go for this chapter. Thank you so much, Jameel. It has been a good experience, and I'm very glad that all of you people participated. You actually tried to think of the scenarios and asked questions. Yeah, though there were some very hypothetical scenarios, but the point is, do not build up hypothetical scenarios for yourself, because otherwise you'll miss from the train from the topic. Okay? First, understand the topic. What if situations should be there, but what if situations should not be there? Okay? Any queries? I think Shashwat was asking some other query from some other topic. Any person has any query from any topic which we did, you may ask. I'll be very happy to take. Tax is a very, very interesting topic. Only thing is you have to relate it as much as you want to. I think Shashwat asked, ma'am, is it mandatory to opt out for advance tax? And if you're paying tax in advance, then if we even default, why we need to pay interest or advance tax? This is advance tax pay karna. Opting out is not a part. Triggering happens when you have advance tax liability of 10,000 or more. You have to pay advance tax by those installments until unless you are a presumptive person who has to pay advance tax in one single installment. And if you do not follow the installments, you have to pay the interest. Why don't we have any provision for investing capital gain in education? We did investing in capital gain, but you want a proper financial markets wala class that धीरे धीरे when you will understand the law धीरे धीरे you will understand how to invest in the markets also. ठीक है? But उसके लिए you need to understand the stories behind it, right? Okay, so my CA journey. This is very candid, but I'll quickly tell. I did not have any plan to become a CA. My teacher guided me to fill it, and since being from a business family, you do not have much knowledge of what all the professional courses are there, what is the future impact. So only my teacher told me to fill in the form. At the moment I filled in the CA form, I started developing interest for the course. And see, anything or everything which you do in your life, if you do not have interest for it, you will not get the result from it. If many of you may be doing some things under pressure or you're not liking it to do, so a result nahi aayega. Till the time you actually love what you do or have an interest in that, if an interest does not arise, it would just be a slogging and you may not get the result which you want. I'm saying may not. Okay, so develop an interest for what you're learning. Try to relate maximum to the provisions which you are learning from one to another, and with real life, you will love it. And then step by step, I became a CA. So it was a step. The moment I got into it, I felt that this is interesting. All of things are so much practical. So I just started loving the topic, and that's how the journey became more easy and more relatable. Okay, so those who are struggling with the exam or the topic, try to love what you do, focus, and you will definitely clear it. Just focus and do not miss on the presentations. I'm saying again and again, you may write all things correct, but if you're not giving working notes, if you're not telling your assumptions, if you're not telling the checker that what the law is, you will not get the exact marks. That would come from practice. Do as much mock test you can. जितना हाथ से लिखोगे ना, उतना would be beneficial to you. Don't just, unless it is fourth revision or third revision, do not just flip the chapters. Write, practice questions. Okay? So any other thing which I can help on? Okay, so Jyoti asked, in TDS interest other than security. So TDS may interest other than interest on security ka limit is 5,000. But yes, when it is interest on FD, which is interest on term deposit, it is 40,000, and will be 40,000 increases to 50,000 in case of senior citizen. Thank you so much. My best wishes to all of you. I definitely know that you people can. So you also know that you can. All the very best. Thanks a lot. Have a great time learning. Thank you. Sir, the class is over. Sir, the class is over.